Today I'm going to tell you the tale of Jimmothy the raccoon, a tale of tragedy, triumph, and redemption, and also potato chips. Once upon a time, in a land far, far away, there lived two nature enthusiasts, and they decided to have all the other nature enthusiasts come over so that they could learn about plants and animals together. While on this amazing adventure with these two fabulous nature enthusiasts, we decided to take a little road trip. We drove through the countryside. We saw some salamanders. We saw some snakes. We saw some birds. And as we were driving home, tired from the day, we saw something terrible. We saw this tiny raccoon on the side of the road. At first, we thought he had been hit. So we stopped the car and we ran to check on him. And he was not dead. He was so upset. He was crying and went and stood on my friend's shoe like he was just begging for help. And this is how we came to know Jimmothy the raccoon. Now, let me tell you a little bit of my tragic backstory. My first encounter with a raccoon was not pleasant. When my husband and I were first married, we went on a camping trip to Shade State Park. We were so excited and it was so much fun, but the neighbors had told us, be really careful. There are raccoons here and they'll take your food. So we had seen the raccoons and we did keep a close watch. We tried to make sure that we never left anything unguarded. Well, then there came a day. We had just ran to a local grocery store and bought some supplies, including 2 bags of chips, including one that was my favorite, Lay's cheddar and sour cream chips. Yes, I actually remember the brand. So we were getting ready to cook our dinner and my husband was on the grill, I was at our little table, and I literally just looked away for a second, like just a second. And a raccoon ran up, grabbed my chips, ran back to the woods, and then I heard a sound I will never forget. And then it was followed by this sound. Yes. Not only did the raccoons take my chips, but they went into the brush just by our campsite and ate the chips, crunching where I could hear them. I ran to the brush trying to make noise and scare them away. Nope, more crunching. And from that time on, every time you mentioned raccoon, I thought of those chips and I was mad. So then along came Jimmothy. He was so little and he was so scared that we just couldn't leave him there. So my friend had some gloves in his car. We scooped the little dude up. We put him in a box that we happened to have in the car, and we drove home with our new little friend, who we named Jimmothy. I don't know why, I didn't name him. So we got home and we wrapped our new little raccoon in a blanket. And it was honestly like the cutest thing ever. And we gave him some different food. We looked online to see what he liked, and we gave him some trail mix, carefully taking out a few things he wasn't supposed to have. He ate some of my roast beef sandwich, which was adorable. After getting him warmed up and giving him food and water, we made the box into a home for him, put the flaps up, taped around them so it would be hard for him to get out. Not impossible, but hard. and we put him in a bathroom. After, of course, securing the doors to the cabinet under the sink, taking everything out that he could get in trouble with, etc. But we needn't have worried, because the next morning, well, and twice during the night when we checked on him, because, you know, he was cute. We got up and he was just happily chilling in his little box, curled up in his ball. We had given him a stuffy, and so he hid under the little stuffy. And he was just living his best life. He was grumpy though. Now that he had eaten, he was not so sure about these humans, especially not me, because I hadn't cuddled him, I hadn't wrapped him in the blanket, and the only food I gave him was actually the roast beef. Everybody else gave him the other things. So then we had to figure out, what on earth are we gonna do with this raccoon? So my friend found a guy that would take him and would keep him and raise him with some other raccoons, so he'd have little siblings. And we were like, all right, we didn't know of any rescues that would take a raccoon. They're harder to find a rescue for, because they are rabies vectors or something like that. They're a species that is more prone to get and carry rabies, apparently. So we finally found this guy, but the problem was he was in Centralia, Illinois, and we were in Beaverville. I was already going back to Terre Haute, which was south, so I said, okay, you know, maybe I can meet him. So we agreed that we were going to meet in Effingham, Illinois, which was about an hour from my house to Effingham and about an hour from his house to Effingham. And we agreed on the place and we agreed on the time. We packed Jimmothy up in the box. We taped it so that there was a big slit for him to get air through, but also so that he wouldn't be able to get out while I was driving, because I was really intimidated by that. My friend also gave me some gloves and then was like, but just so you know, they're not bite proof. So that was not reassuring. But I got in my car and I was driving down, driving, and I got to Tuscola, and the guy messaged me and said, hey, can I call you? And I was like, give me a minute, because I was getting ready to find a place to stop and eat, because I was hungry, and what if Jimmothy was hungry? So I found a McDonald's, I ordered nuggets, I peeled the breading off of a nugget and gave a little chunk to Jimmothy, because of course he needed to eat his first nuggie. Come on. Seriously, giving him a nuggie, cutest thing ever. So then I tell the guy, hey, okay, you can call now. And I sent him a picture of the raccoon chowing on his little nuggie. And the guy liked the picture, but then never called. So I keep on driving, whatever, and I get to Effingham. And then I have trouble finding the place. And I end up having, like, at the exit, I didn't know if I should go right or left. I went left. I apparently should have went right. And there was no way to get off the interstate because it was under construction. So I couldn't turn around. And the first exit that I was supposed to be able to get off on was closed because of the construction. So like 30 minutes later, I get back to Effingham and I'm like, ugh. And I'd been keeping the guy updated on, you know, how far out I was and everything. But I got there maybe 20 minutes late, I think, by the time all was said and done. So I stop and I'm trying to figure out what to do with my time because I don't see him. And then I look and I see he hasn't, it was like 7 something. And I hadn't seen him actually responding or even looking at any of my messages since 5:30. And I was like, oh, this can't be good. But he had told me his mom might come instead. So, you know, I waited and I waited and I waited and I waited. After an hour, I was mad because like, what am I gonna do? I have this raccoon in a box. He's been traveling for hours. It's 7, we left at 3, so 4 hours in a car in this box. He's gotta be tired of traveling. I'm tired of traveling. And then because the dude didn't show up, I was thinking I was gonna have to go all the way back north, another 2.5 hours to bring this raccoon back for them to find a place to take the raccoon, because they had, after I left, found another rescue that would take the raccoon. So I'm mad because that's a lot of driving. And then like by the time I got there, it would be like, it would have been at least 9:30 by the time I got to my friend's house. Then we would have to take the raccoon to whatever rescue it was, get him settled, and then what the hell am I gonna do? Am I gonna stay the night with my friend again? I don't want to set out my tent because I had been camping over the weekend. I didn't want to have to get out and set up my tent at 10 o'clock at night. And am I gonna share a bed with my friends? Like, we're close, but we're not like share a bed close. So yeah, I was pissed. So I'm talking to my friends from the nature weekend, and one of them mentioned that there's an app that you can use that's like Animal Help, I think is the name of it. This app helps you find rescues that'll take the animal. So I called one. I was trying to figure out like what was close to me, because like I'm in a part of Illinois that I'm not familiar with at all. Like, I live in Terre Haute, Indiana. I don't live in Illinois. I don't go southwest in Illinois, literally never. So I had no idea. So I picked a place I had heard of before that I had passed by on my trip in Monticello. And I called them and they're like, yep, we can take him. So I'm like, all right, cool. It's only an hour away, way better than the 2.5 hours. So I go and I'm driving and all is still going well. And then about 10 minutes from my destination, I had to turn on a back road that was really bumpy. And Jimmothy was done with the road trip at that point, done. So I'm driving and I'm trying to like go on the road, and I hear of little raccoon toesies trying to climb up the box. And I'm like, what am I gonna do? Like, if this raccoon gets out of his box, I'm not supposed to touch him because he hasn't had a rabies test. And if he bites you, then not only do you have to have 1,000,000 shots to make sure you don't get rabies, but he has to be tested to see if he has rabies. And the only way to do that is by taking a sample of his brain matter, which involves his death. Like, I am way too invested in this raccoon for that. So I'm like, crap. So I pull over and I make sure he's still in the box and I check on him. And then like, what else am I gonna do? Like, so I drive to the rescue and we make it. And the lady lets us in, and I've already told her how wonderful Jimmothy is, how he's sweet and loving, but a little grumpy that day. I have to be honest. And she said that, you know, he would have to be quarantined for about 2 weeks to make sure he didn't have distemper. But after that, he would be put in a little group of raccoons, a little colony or family, so that he wouldn't get that used to humans. And then after some time, when he was able to, when he was ready, the colony would be put back into the wild, and Jimmothy would live the life that he's supposed to live out in nature, which honestly is way better than the life that the dude would have given him had the dude actually shown up. And the dude did give me, his mom called me and gave me an apology, and then he messaged and gave me an apology. The two apologies did not even remotely match. I don't know what's up with that. That's honestly, it's not my business, whatever. Jimmothy's life is much better in the place that he ended up at. So then by that time it's like 9 something. I'm over an hour from home. I'm exhausted, but I drove home missing Jimmothy. I went in the space of 24 hours from hating everything about raccoons to being like, I miss my raccoon buddy. Since that time, I have called the rescue. I've checked on Jimmothy. He's doing good. He's opinionated. He lets them know when he is hungry or that he doesn't want them to come around or whatever. But he's doing really well. He hasn't finished his 2 weeks of quarantine yet, but they're looking to see how they can divide up the raccoons to make sure they make the best little fit for their families. And I think he'll have a really good life. So I'm really happy about that. All's well that ends well, I guess. And now when I think about a raccoon, instead of hearing the crunching of my chips in the woods, now I think of my little tiny Jimmothy wrapped up in a blankie, scared and cold and hungry. So I think some healing and restoration was done in my soul. Isn't that sweet? So if you like this story, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and stay tuned for further adventures, hopefully not involving raccoons.